What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. Whoa, part 2 already. So yeah, last week I came at you with some ideas of you of building your cooperative board gaming collection set. And I had some pretty good ideas, but I wasn't nearly finished. There are so many other great cooperative games out there that you might want to look into. So also you might want to look into hitting that subscribe for us. We do this as a for fun style channel, so we have no sponsorship here, and we don't have to answer to anybody but ourselves and you all. So show us a little support by hitting that subscribe and the notify us. You know what? We're not in the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't like us. It doesn't recognize us. We're invisible to it. So that notify will help. But for right now, why don't we just get right down and talk about, it feels like a ton of other great cooperative games that I didn't get a chance to notify you about. So sit back, relax, and join me down the table. All right, welcome back for part 2. That was a ton of damn board games I discussed in part 1. Now we move on to some more genres, some more styles and themes that I think have some really great cooperative games to help you build up your collection. So let's start with some fantasy games. Oh, I love some fantasy games. And of course, I don't think you can talk about fantasy board games, cooperative games, unless you're going to start with Hero Quest. Now, I know this is mostly a one versus all game with someone acting as Zargon or the DM, GM style player of the game. But with the app version, you don't need a player to run the game. The game will be running itself, making it a fully cooperative game with all the players. That's why I had to make sure that I put this on my list. Now, this is top-notch, super fun game that's been around since the 80s and has been loved die-hardly by most that have played it ever since. The miniatures are fantastic, even in the updated version, arguably better or a little more fun to look at. The 3D pieces on the board are amazing, and the way they use one basically static board and can change it up with different rooms, use different areas locked off, gives so much more replayability to that board than I ever thought could have been when I originally saw it back in the 80s. And it's still holding up and doing its job. That's pretty damn good. But that's not all. There are so many great fantasy games out there, and of course I wouldn't be able to continue if I also didn't mention Return to Dark Tower. This is an app-only board game, which has turned some people off, but the company assures us that if anything ever happens, and they close shop, it is going to go public and it is going to stay up. So, let's see what happens. But for right now, everything is cool, everything is copacetic, and it is generating stories after stories, adventures after adventures, based on bosses after bosses after bosses. This game doesn't have to be played cooperatively. It can be played competitively. It can be played solo as well, so it gives you those extra options. But I really think the game comes to life when it is played cooperatively. Yes, the original was a competitive game, but I don't know. The way this is set up now, it feels cooperative to me. It feels more important to put the vile boss down than to do better than the other players. Now, the miniatures and the components and the pieces are absolutely amazing. They went out of their way to make sure they were visually stunning. Everything in this game that you can look at is going to knock your eyes out of the socket. And that's great because it really makes a lot of difference when you enjoy looking at the game on the table. So just to start the list off with those two, I think are two big, huge hits. Now, we don't have to stop there with huge hits. Lord of the Rings, one of the biggest selling, most popular fantasy themes, genres out there, has a ton of games. And I want to talk about Journeys in Middle-earth. In this game, which can be run with an app if you don't want somebody to run it for you. It can be completely cooperatively done through the app use. You are going to be running around Middle-earth using one of the iconic characters. And you're going to be trying to put down Sauron's evil plans. And then this takes place between the stories in The Hobbit and the stories in Lord of the Rings. So there's this whole buildup of things that are happening, and you and your party are going to be in the middle, and they're going to be responsible for stopping or allowing things to happen. It's going to pull you in. It really does make you feel like you are part of the Middle-earth story. You're going to visualize this so easily in your head because things are so familiar to you. This game does a fantastic, bang-up job of just making sure that you know that you are in Tolkien's world. Legends of Novus by Fundamental Games is another title that I really dig. This is a world exploration game where you are taking on one boss after the other, building up your reputation and your experience and level. You are going to have an RPG, a light RPG feel from this game as you do explore this most magical world with its iconic places and sights to see. I'm really hoping to see more from this game in the future because it does pull me in and make me feel part of this magical world, especially with characters whose classes can advance. If this was D&D, it would be the equivalent of like a prestige class. You can become something else with experience. You can learn. I like that. I always do in board games. And Legends of Novus by Fundamental Games really does deliver. Now, keeping with the fantasy theme, but kind of zeroing in a little bit more specifically, there are some really fantastic bang-up Dungeons and Dragons titles that can be played cooperatively and not necessarily one versus all. The most obvious thing that comes to mind is the Dungeons and Dragons Cooperative Adventure System line. There are like 8 games in this line already, and with the exception of one, they're all completely independent of each other. You don't need any other game to play, such as Castle Ravenloft, Wrath of Ashadlan, Legend of Drizzt, Tomb of Annihilation, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and the smaller module box set of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Wonderful thing about this is that they can be combined as far as their characters go, their classes, their class abilities. Use a fighter from one game can be used in any of the games. And there are multiple fighters in the game, so there are multiple fighter cards, one for each character, but they can be used for any other fighter in the game. This is begging to be made into more of a DMable system in a way, even though the cards run the AI system for it as a DM. This game is just crying for people to write their own adventures and their own stories, create their own modules in this. And that brings these D&D games to life. Like most of the other D&D board games don't. Not quite, not to this level. Now, superheroes, of course, should have a lot of cooperative games. It sounds fitting. I want to talk about a few that I've really enjoyed, and the first 2 are both by Fantasy Flight Games. And the first one is based on everyone's favorite mutants, the X-Men. And that's Marvel's X-Men Mutant Insurrection. And this is basically a Marvel version of FFG's other title of Elder Sign. But instead of Cthulhu, you're dealing with mutants. So in this game, you're going to be taking the Blackbird to jet around the world to deal with missions that are given out to you mostly by Professor X. And you're going to be dealing with these one at a time. It's going to be putting out one fire around the globe after another fire until the big payoff at the end. And can you stop the big bad, which is usually someone like Magneto, as you can imagine. The game pulls together a lot of strategy use and pulls the players together in a team-like effort. I think that is stronger than a lot of the other cooperative games out there in the market. If you're a fan of the X-Men or Marvel in general, this is a game you're going to want to look at. Marvel's X-Men Insurrection. Now, if you know me in the channel, then you know the other game I'm going to talk about by them. As soon as I said Fantasy Flight Games and Marvel, and that is Marvel Champions, the card game. This is an amazingly fun game that's going to suck you so far deep into the Marvel Universe, you're not going to want to bother to come out for a while. This game is a fixed deck, but you can also build your own deck. The game comes with fixed decks, and the hero packs are all fixed. But there's extra cards, and you can take apart any deck and build another one, maybe a better one. Or maybe you're like me, and that's not really your strongest quality, so you just go with the store-bought pre-packaged decks. But this is a growing universe, a hugely growing universe, with many expansions out. And as long as you have the core game, it doesn't matter which expansion. You don't have to buy them in any order. You can only have one or two of the expansions, mix match here and there, and not worry about really missing out something that you need to play the game. But if you're a real Marvel fan and you're a bit of a completionist, like me, you're going to be chasing that rabbit hole so far down deep, you're not going to be able to come back up, which is I've done everything Marvel Champions I am sold on, because I want that whole universe. And it is a great feeling, because the game itself is fun. It does make you feel like you're in the middle of a Marvel fight. So go. I think if you're a Marvel fan, you need to check out more information, maybe watch a few playthroughs of Marvel Champions, the card game. Now, one more Marvel one before I move on, and that's by Cool Mini or Not, and that's Marvel Zombies. This is a hugely massive game with tons of expansions coming out almost immediately with the core boxes themselves. Yes, the core boxes. The main core box, you are going to be playing superheroes, Marvel superheroes that have been infected with the zombie virus, and you need to feed to survive. So while you're feeding on bystanders and, well, non-infected heroes that are trying to stop you, you're growing in power. But the other core box is the X-Men core box, and this is where you're playing the non-infected heroes trying to stop the hero zombies. And combined together, these make an excellent gameplay and brings the Marvel Universe into a miniatures-based system that may not have that many rivals. If you're a Marvel fan and you're looking for a great miniature game experience, Marvel Zombies is probably what you're going to want to get more information on. USopoly has Thanos Rising, and that's exactly what this is. This is a game trying to stop Thanos from getting his glove on all of the Infinity Stones. During this game, you're going to be drafting heroes to your team in this dice chucking, dice manipulation, dice set accumulation style game. You're going to try to match dice rolls Yahtzee style in order to stop Thanos' minions, in order to acquire new allies onto your team, or to get the stones themselves. This is a tough, drag-down slobber knocker of a fight, as you can imagine it should be, concerning Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. If you love the movies, if you loved the comics, this is a game you're going to want to play, not just have on your shelf, I think. It's always given me a lot of fun, and but I'm a sucker for Marvel. I'm a sucker for dice chuckers, so that might be a no-brainer. But by USopoly, you might want to check out some more information, maybe watch a playthrough or two on Thanos Rising. Believe it or not, I'm going to move away from Marvel, at least for once for right now. And I want to talk about a game by IDW called Batman the Animated Series, Shadow of the Bat. This is a miniatures-based tactical game where you are going to be playing as the Bat, or members of the extended Bat family. Depending on how many expansions of this massively expansive game system you have, you could potentially have the entire animated series at your fingertips. Just about. All the different characters and heroes you're going to get a chance to play and run through. Familiar scenarios taken directly from the series. You're going to feel like you are part of this series. You're going to hear the voices. You're going to hear Mark Hamill. You're going to hear Conroy. You're going to hear everything that's going to suck you so far into this world. You're going to need a bat signal lamp to find your way out. It really does deliver on the promise to make you feel like you're Batman. and the Batman family. And what really shines in this, though, is the team play. I really love the way they do teamwork in this game. You roll the dice to see what options you're going to have to choose from, but you also get to give out dice. You have to, as part of the rules, give out dice to the other characters and or players. You might not be playing solo. Maybe other players are running the heroes themselves, but you have a chance to lend these dice out. Everyone is going to be giving dice they rolled to other players as well as keeping some to themselves. And this is the most brilliant form of teamwork that I've come across in board gaming. And I want to see more of this dice sharing system done. Now, we have some more besides superhero games to talk about. That's right, there's also a genre that I like to call high adventure, because that's what it feels like. It feels like an adventure, like an Indiana Jones style adventure, King Solomon's Mind kind of adventure, Percy Fawcett, if you want a real life example. And there are some games that really deliver with this system. Now, I was talking about Percy Fawcett in the last episode during the sci-fi section. And I was talking about the Judge Dredd Scorched Earth game being built upon the engine of the Lost Expedition. And that's the title I'm talking about right now, The Lost Expedition. Percy Fawcett's expedition to find the lost city of gold, the city of Z. And he never returned. Him and his son's friend went missing forever. In this game, you're following in his footsteps. Time period wise, you are following in his footsteps, and you and your party of players will be running three adventurers. Each has their own skill of survival and techniques inside the jungle, which you're going to have to use in order to make it to the end if you really think you're going to find the lost city of gold. The adventures, the dangers are all torn exactly from the jungle. It is so realistic in the possibility of things that can happen to you. It reminds you how scary the real world can be. It's a very fun game. You all get to work together cooperatively. You make your decisions cooperatively, and you decide what characters are doing what together as a team. If you like high adventure games, that's a good one to start with. The Lost Expedition by Osprey Games. Legend of the Lost Tomb by Everything Epic. And they do try to make this game pretty darn epic. Not only is this an Indiana Jones style dungeon delve, but it's so much more than that. It's an RPG, it's a character growing game. But that's not it. It's also a horror board game, because this is dealing with horrific aspects that are rising, and you are a member of an organization that is set out to stop any of these risings and insurrections from these monsters, these undead, these demons, and gods themselves. And it's not easy. Every turn of the path, something is trying to kill you in this dungeon. This has been redone as a sci-fi version as well. Secrets of the Lost Station, which I haven't played, so I don't know firsthand, but if it's anything at all like the more 1930s Indiana Jones style game that it was born from, hopefully that'll be just as fun. This game pulls from realism and from mysticism all at the same time. It combines the two really well, and is going to make you feel a little bit of anxiety, just a little bit of stress, having to deal with everything that you're dealing with, as well as things that you accidentally released when you really shouldn't have, because you already have your hands full with that mummy back there. But it's a fun sort of tension, I think. If you're looking for a good Indiana Jones style feel with a good dash of mysticism to it, then Secret of the Lost Tomb by Everything Epic may be a game you're going to want to get some more information on and watch a few playthroughs of. Now I'm going to quickly talk about a trilogy here. They're not actually linked together, though they kind of are. We'll see what happens if there's a fourth installation coming out. But GameRight has the Forbidden series. Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and Forbidden Sky. And in these games, you are adventurers trying to find mystical objects. And you get swept up in the mysticism of it all. Whether it's the island who's consciously trying to stop you, even to the point of destroying itself and drowning itself. The desert itself seems like it's trying to stop you as well, just trying to bury you as well as it can before you can get its secrets. And even in the sky, the lightning and the winds, are they alive? Do they have a consciousness? They sure seem to. Each of these games does build a little bit upon the last, but they're not interconnected. Yet at the same time, I think myself and everyone else that has played them kind of feels like there's a story going on here. So we hope maybe the fourth upcoming game, if there is one, is this going to be space? Forbidden Moon, Forbidden Planet, Forbidden Space. Where else are they going to go, right? They went from Forbidden Ocean to the desert, from the desert to the sky, and now you left the sky in a rocket ship. Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, but it is a lot of fun. The cooperativeness in this game, the open-handedness in this game between all of the players really drives a huge fun factor up in this game. And if you're looking for a light style, strategy heavier style game, then by Game Right, please look into and get some more information on their Forbidden series: Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and Forbidden Sky. Now, this is the wrap-up of Part 2. I think that is a ton of great cooperative games to help you build your cooperative game shelf. I'm your buddy Big John G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming, and I am out of here.